Hi, this is Heidi from Garden Crossings, and it's a beautiful November day today, and I'm going to go out and walk through the garden and along the creek along the back of our property, and I'm going to see what I can find to put together for my winter containers. So join me as we go on a hunt looking for beautiful things in nature to create beautiful fall planters. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cut some of this ornamental grass. I think this will add a nice thriller to the combination. So I'm going to go in, and I've already taken a little chunk out, but I'm going to take another chunk out and just go in and cut this. I want to make sure I do it nice and long because I want to make sure that it's tall to create that thriller look in my planter. So when I get done cutting it, I'm going to keep my hand on it because if I let it go, it's going to kind of go everywhere. So I'm going to just lay this down on the ground in a clump, and then that way when I put it in my combination, it'll kind of also stay in this nice clump. Look how cool that looks with all that dried, kind of that, I don't know, curly look, and then a little wisp there with the grass head. So I think that'll look cool in the combination. So first thing checked off the list. So now we're heading out into this kind of woody area here, and what I'm hoping to find out in this area is some of the native wild red twig dogwood that we have. So hopefully we'll be finding red twig dogwood in this kind of woodsy area. So finding the red twig dogwood was a little bit, not necessarily harder, but a little bit more of a challenge than what I was thinking. So on our side of the creek over there was none. So I had to walk to the end of the creek to the road so that I was able to get across the creek and then onto this side here to cut some of the dogwood. So of course it's all on the other side of the fence. Is that how this usually works? But whatever, we're good. I'm gonna get down in here by the water. Hopefully I don't fall in, and cut me some of these beautiful red twigs. So basically I just have my scissors along, and I'm gonna get in here and we're gonna go ahead and do some cutting. So I wanna make for sure when I'm cutting that I'm doing it pretty long, because again, I wanna make for sure that when I stick them in my planter that they'll stick up high enough. So I'm going to go in and just get a few of these. And if you have the option, it's better to get more than less because you never know where you're going to need it. So as long as you're out here cutting, just cut probably about maybe twice as much as you think you need. So we used to have an Arctic Fire dogwood in our yard, and we pulled it out because I wanted more flowerful plants. Once we pulled it out, I kind of kicked myself because I forgot that I used that to get my red twigs off of. So now at the greenhouse, we are planting a new Arctic Fire. That way I have something to get twigs. One thing with the Arctic Fire dogwood is the color is a lot more red, a lot more intense. But for all practical purposes, if you don't have one, go look out in nature because these here are going to look really nice up against the green foliage in my winter planter. So I'm pretty happy with what we're finding here. So on to the next thing that we can add for our planter. So one thing I forgot to point out with these red twig dogwood is actually you do want to trim, if you have red twig dogwood, you want to trim your bush about every 2 to 3 years because it's that fresh new growth that's going to be the most intense red. So if you just let your dogwood go and never trim it, after time your brightness and the vividness of that plant is going to go away. So it's okay to trim it, and it's actually encouraged because you're going to have more vibrant bright red twigs. So go ahead and trim, and don't be afraid with doing so. So in walking along, I found this grass. I don't know exactly what it's called. I'm sure some of you are going to know, but as a child, I remember just kind of pulling it apart in sections, and then sometimes you put it back together. But I don't know, it's kind of a nice, firm, spiky looking grass. So I'm going to cut a few of these. I might use them, I might not. We'll see. But I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple. We'll see what we do with them. So I didn't cut a ton, but I just got a few. So that might look kind of nice as a thriller. So So we'll see if I use them, but at least I have them since we're out in the woods here foraging. So here is what I found on my foraging. Some of it you can tell is not from nature, but we'll talk about that as we're going through. So the first thing, and this is going to be the main thing that I'm using for my greenery this year, is juniper. So we had a huge juniper up at the up north garden, and we did not like it. So we ripped that thing out. But before doing so, I went ahead and trimmed a whole bunch of branches off it. That way that will be like my staple green in my container combination. Before we had our hydrangeas all trimmed back, I went ahead and trimmed a couple of the firelight and dried them. So that's what you've got there. I also have a couple birch logs, and that's something that I purchased, and I just use those year after year. I also have, because I don't have any berries in my garden, I bought some from Hobby Lobby, and so this is going to be kind of like my green berry look. There's also lights in there, so we'll be using that. We did find quite a bit of the red twig dogwood out along the creek out back, so we went ahead and trimmed a bunch of that. So that will add a nice thrilling red to the combination. And then we also went to our yellow thuya out back and trimmed a couple branches out of that just to give a little contrast up against that green juniper. And then I found some, I don't even know what it is, but it's like little green grasses maybe, I don't know. They kind of look like juncus, but they're not. So we're gonna use those as well. And then I forgot to grab them on the way up here, is we cut some ornamental grass, and we'll use some of that in there too, because that'll add a little motion to the container combination. So I'm gonna go run out back, grab that ornamental grass, and then I'm gonna start creating the combination. All right, so I started off here with my container. I had Rod put new soil in it because we didn't have old soil. But if you have old soil in your container, don't use new soil. Just use that old soil. That way it kind of gives you a way to recycle it. Right now it's nice and loose. You want to do this before the soil gets frozen, because if the soil gets frozen, that's going to make it's going to be harder to stick your branches in. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my juniper, because that's going to be like my biggest. That's going to be what's going to fill this out the most, and then I'll add some of the other things into it as additional elements. So actually I'm going to change that plan up. I'm going to stick the grass in first, because I want to keep this grass as a clump like this, and I think if I put this in first, that way there's nothing else for it to fight with to get down in here. So grass first, and that's going to go in the back of the planter. So I'm going to dig a little hole. And basically I'm like planting it, not really, but you know, and then I'm gonna pack the soil around it like so. So that way that will be in the back. And now I don't have to worry about finding a spot big enough for the grass. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some of these junipers, and I'm just gonna stick them in there. So I'm just gonna basically fill this thing up with junipers. Put some of the taller ones in the back, some of the shorter ones in the front. So if you have like Christmas trees or anything like that, that works. Any evergreen really works fine. A lot of times what I would do is, if I had other greenery, I would put different things in here just to kind of break it up a little bit, the texture. But this year I didn't go get a different greenery, so this will just have to work. Sometimes I'll go buy a Christmas tree and just cut all the branches off, and that's what I use. But this year I had these junipers, so this is what I'm using this year. Now I'm trying to kind of angle them a little bit so that they're like not all going straight up, but kind of off to the side as well. So I'm just kind of poking them in the grass sideways. Or not into the grass, into the soil. All right, now I'm going to scooch over to the other side and see if we can get some going that way. It smells so good too. Fresh cut greens are always really, really good smelling. All right, so I think I'm just gonna leave that like that for now and see what we can do with some of the other things, because I want to save some of what I have because I'm making up 2 hanging baskets as well. So I don't want to use it all in one container. So this is the yellow arborvitae. I'm going to tuck that in just for a little splash. And then I'm going to do it over on this side as well. And because I don't like things in 2s, I'm going to put a 3rd one in there. Like so. And then now I think what I'm going to do is, let's see here. I think the next thing I'm going to do is the red twigs. So I kind of got a lot of these, not knowing how many I would need, but it's always better to have more than what you need than wishing you had some extra when you get done. Go on the other side. Stick those in there. Yep, it needs more. These are pretty tall. So I kind of put the first 2 on the edges, and then now this one I'm going to stick in the middle here. It kind of blocks that grass a little bit, but I think the grass still shows through nicely. And I want to make sure that I get them pushed in as far as I can. That way that winter wind doesn't whip them all around. I'm going to try to spread the grass out a little bit, just to kind of fan it out, give it a little, yeah, I don't know if that grass is really needed, but I'll just leave it in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these birch logs. I've got 2 of them. I wish I had 3, because remember I just said I don't like doing things in 2, but I'm going to have to. So let's just find a spot we can. Probably should have done these first. There we go. See if I can get this one in here on this side. You can see the evergreens moving. All right. And let's see, I've got hydrangeas. So I'm going to tuck some hydrangeas in as well. Now these I probably should have cut more of, but you know, this is where you think you have enough of something and you actually don't. So you can see they're a little flat on that side. That's because that's the side I had them laying on when they were drying. This side is a little bit more rounded. Let's see. I actually think I do like this side better. It's got a little bit more of a pop because that pink kind of blends in a little bit with that red. So we'll go this direction with them. And you can see I have 3 on here. We'll see if they all get in the pot without breaking. So I'm going to stick this one in the center. They're so fragile. They're doing okay. That's okay. They did good. All right. And then I'm going to do, actually, maybe for this one in the front, I'm going to have the pink side showing just to kind of, because that shows up good against the lime green there. So yeah, let's do like that. And then I just have the single one left. So I'm doing a trio, but kind of 3, 2, 1. So we'll see how that looks. And this one too, I think I'm going to have that pinkish standing out there. So I'm going to step back just a second so I can take a look at it from the angle that you're looking at it from. And I think it looks pretty good. I might add a little bit more grass on either side just to kind of give that more of a backdrop. So let me go ahead and put some grass on the back a minute. Hopefully I'll be able to get it in there, because remember I said I did the grass first because it's hard to get in with all this other stuff. So I'm going to take this clump. I still want to keep it as a clump because it's much easier to shove a clump of grass in than one blade of grass. So let me go ahead and just get it so the bottom's all kind of even. And I'm going to shove this in there. We'll see how this does. I'm having to dig a little bit because it's not shoving it super great. There. All right. We'll go to the other side a minute. Digging that little hole. Shoving it in. All right, now I'm going to step back for like how you're seeing it so I can see if that looks better. I think that gives the back a little bit more of a background, sort of. So I think that is better. It could use a little bit more red twig, but I think once I get it up against my house, which is tan, that won't be too big of a deal. Also, I have some bedazzling I'm going to do to it in a minute, so let me do that. And I think that will actually maybe give us that extra pop of red that I'm looking for. So let me grab this. So basically what this is a pile of stuff I use every year. In this, there is a couple different picks. So this is a pick. Actually, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm not going to pull it apart because I don't want to break it. But there's one pick that's got berries, and the other pick has the balls and that kind of sparkly, spiky stuff. And then this is a pick of just berries. There's another pick from the balls. So this is kind of give us that, maybe that splash of red I'm hoping for. This here, these are just twinkle lights. So I'm going to put these branches in, and then this will light it up at night and kind of give it a little twinkle feel. So let me first put this in, and this is just going to go in as one big chunk like that because it's kind of getting old. So let me just I don't want it to look tacky though with these hydrangeas, and I'm afraid this is going to make it look tacky, but we'll see. You don't know if you don't try. So let's just kind of set them in there. I don't know. I'm just going to leave them behind the hydrangeas there because it gives a splash of red. It does give it a little tacky look, but it needs more red in my opinion. So we'll just leave it. These branches, this is a set I got, I don't know, Home Depot or Lowe's, somewhere. I got them on 50% off a couple years back. So there's 3 branches in a set, and they're all kind of wired one onto the next. And so let me get my cord untangled here a little bit, and I'm going to kind of stick them in there as a trio because I don't want them all in the same spot. So figure out who's hooked up to what here. Okay, here's the end. So I'm going to stick this one on this side because our power is actually on the side closest to me, and they're just set down in there so you really can't even see them right now. This one here, I'm going to just kind of set down in here in the middle, back area. And they are lower than a lot of this other stuff, but at night the lights will shine and you'll just kind of see it glow in this container. And then this one I'm going to shove off to the side here. So this way it gives night light on all 3 sides, and we'll just kind of make this whole thing glow at night. So I think we are finished. It's amazing how things turn out with just random things you can find around the yard. I think this yellow, although yellow is not typically like a winter color, I think it just adds a little bit of contrast, breaks that green up a little bit. You can't go wrong with birch logs, like they're just the thing. So can't go wrong with the birch logs. Hydrangeas, if you have any of those in your yard, maybe you didn't plan ahead, that's fine. Maybe yours are kind of brown. Take some spray paint them white or red or whatever color you want, and poke those in for a splash of color. and then find whatever evergreen is in your area. I know in different areas of the country, we have different evergreen plants. It doesn't matter what you're using. Like I said, typically I'll use like a blue spruce or a white spruce or something like that. But this year it's just all juniper, and I think that looks great. The red twig dogwood, maybe you have yellow twig dogwood. That's nice. Maybe you don't even have it. Go find some trees in your yard that have like cool branch shape. Spray paint them white or spray paint them red. They'll give you that same look as what this native dogwood is doing. And if you have ornamental grasses, feel free to tuck some of those in the back. Just gives a little added interest. So hopefully you found this helpful and informative. And if you have any questions on how to do this, feel free to leave a message below. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get all my YouTube videos. I'd love to hear more from you. This is Heidi from Garden Crossings.